Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're jumping down into the charts for Cardano's ADA, taking a look at what has been going on most recently and what we might expect to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now, if you have not yet joined us in Discord, the link is in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check that out today. Also in the description down below you're going to find a couple of additional links, one to our Patreon services where we offer a lot more for our basically our Patreon members down in Discord, offering things like buy and sell alerts, staking alerts, project reviews, trading, AMAs twice weekly, and a whole host of additional benefits. So if that's your bag, why not check that out? The other link that you'll find in the description below is to the new Cheeky podcast, a fantastic way of staying up to date with absolutely everything crypto on your daily commute to the office. Completely free, so why not check that one out down below as well. Okay, let's waste no more time though. Let's talk about Cardano's ADA. Here paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. Now we are in this very messy kind of sideways trade here, and I do actually want to kind of scale this back just a fraction so that we can talk about what is actually going on here. I'm going to clear out a couple of things. I'm going to remove some of this as well, as these moves are all complete, and I'm just going to take that off there. So we'll talk about that in a moment as well. We've got our lower side here, so we had this fifth wave come down. This looks like a wave one low, and this comes in at 43.53 cent, and we've seen a little bit of volatility moving on to the sideways portion here. Now, as I kind of just zoom out on this hourly chart here for a second, you can kind of see the scale of things that have been going on. We had the three-wave corrective move coming up here. Now, it's still possible that this is still in play. Essentially, we could have a really complicated sideways trade here going on before we actually pull back down and much more significant lows. That being said though, the minimum of that threshold would be 52.6 on a 1-to-1 ratio. That would actually put us up ever so slightly higher. So let me actually remove that fib, and what we'll do is we'll grab this high point here and this low one this side, just move this over to our current lows, which are down here at 43.53. And here you can see the higher end of the spectrum actually just crosses up to the higher side of the wave 4. This basically is 54.44 cent. That's kind of the maximum area, and I think that's a wildcard scenario where essentially we see this three-wave move where we go up here into a W wave, down here into an X wave, and then we push on up into that Y wave slightly higher. Essentially, it's all corrective. There is nothing here that is actually telling us there's a trend to the upside. There is nothing here telling us that we've kind of hit the bottom and we're reversing up, right? That isn't being seen here at all for Cardano. Now, if I jump up into the 8-hourly chart here for a second, and we just bring this across and bring this down, here you can kind of see in a little bit more detail the kind of scope of things that have been going on. We've kind of pulled back down, we hit this low point, we bounced up, we come back down. Now, I know a lot of people will be looking at this thinking that we're basically setting ourselves up here with some higher lows, and that's usually quite bullish, right? However, this is also being paired up, and we cannot ignore this. So if I draw these trend lines on, it's also being paired up with some lower highs at the same time, and these are coming in down here as well. Okay, so we're not actually setting up any higher highs, even though we are setting up the higher lows. Essentially, if anything, I'm going to look at this thing as a bit of a bear flag in a similar way that we have for Bitcoin, right? Bear flags usually have a decrease in volume. So if we come here and we actually load up the volumes, and I just move this down here for a second, you can kind of see that the volumes have been decreasing, and they've been decreasing in a pretty significant way. Let me grab my pencil here. Okay, so basically here is our spike of volume, okay, as we hit this low point. Okay, since that point there, all we've done here is actually see a small spike of volume just here, and again the volume is decreasing quite dramatically. On the way down, the volume increased. Okay, so as that price fell back down, even though we set this higher low, we also essentially have dropped the volume down lower than it was previously as well. We take a look at the current price action, you can see the volume is basically non-existent. So this is very much aligned to what a bear flag would normally be, as in an increased volume as we kind of set up a pole scenario. Okay, so that's right here, and then the volume decreases as we set up the flag, which is usually here. And when it comes to these bear flags, we normally do see these higher lows, but we also see the lower highs. Okay, so it's important that we understand that this isn't necessarily looking overly optimistic here for Cardano's ADA slightly longer term. Okay, so there's some short-term push potentially to the upside, but essentially the macro trend is still very much to the downside. Now, if I bring the stochastic RSI up into play on this 8-hour chart, let me just remove that. I don't need that on there. And we can see here that we're overbought right now. If I actually go ahead and remove the stock and throw the relative strength index in here, you can also see exactly what is going on, right? So essentially what we're doing here is we're basically moving from the lower side of the relative strength index, moving up towards the higher side of the relative strength index. Now, what we want to do is we want to watch out for divergences, okay? And for the most part, we're actually not really seeing any divergence. This relative strength index is pretty much following the price action here as well, so it's basically all decreasing together. So again, nothing there is actually indicating to us that we have room to the growth to the upside outside of what's already seen within these candles. So essentially, we are looking for upside. There's no hidden divergences that I can see here either. We're basically tracking up on the downside and we're tracking down on the upper side. So basically what we end up with is something that looks like this. It's easy to draw this on the RSI, so I'll just draw this up here for a second. You can kind of see this triangular wedge shaped pattern. Essentially what's going to happen is we're going to be testing this upper end again. We're probably going to pull back down. We might test this lower end, we'll test the upper end, and eventually we'll end up in a position where we get a breakout to the upside or a breakdown to the downside. Okay, so from this relative strength index, I think we could go in either direction. That RSI isn't giving us a huge amount of indication as to what's going on. The stochastic RSI, however, is telling us a little bit more, because it's not as laggy as it is for the relative strength index or something like the MACD. Essentially what you've got here is a momentum indicator that is telling us that we're about to see some kind of downward price action on this 8-hour chart, and the same thing can be said potentially for our daily stochastic RSI. There's a slight push to the upside possibly here, but hard to say for certain. If we do actually go ahead and switch back on the relative strength index and we kind of drill back into this a little bit, here we can see that a huge decrease here as we decrease that relative strength index. Again, the same triangular wedge-shaped pattern that's seen inside the candles is seen from the relative strength index. So we could potentially see a breakdown according to the 8-hour. The one daily chart could potentially go in either direction, so it's not a huge indicator as to what is likely to happen here. So Elliott wave theory is probably going to help us understand a little bit more here. I would say that this looks like inside this C wave drop here a B wave move, potentially a B wave triangle shape pattern. So whether you believe in bear flags and bull flags and things like that, or Elliott wave theory, I think essentially what you've kind of got here is this triangular shaped pattern. Now with this, if we were to take this low point down here, and I've done this a dozen times already in many of the other videos, but basically take that entire measurement here, we move that over to this bounce high here, and it shows us moving down to 22.23 cent. Essentially, if I remove that off here, what that looks like is a giant ABC structure. Okay, so inside our C wave here, we have this drop like so. Okay, and so essentially all of that is playing out, and it looks like we have the macro move to the downside. I'm not saying that we might have some short-term bounce upwards, that's definitely possible, but our macro and our trend direction is very much to the downside, so we cannot ignore that. The bottom hasn't come in my opinion, here for Cardano's ADA. Now let's jump down into that hourly chart, right? Because we do need to acknowledge what's going on here in a little bit more detail. Okay, so taking a look at this, I think we have that potential push to the upside, but I'm not overly optimistic at pushing up higher towards 54.44 as we spoke about earlier, with this being a total macro move of an ABC like A, B, and C like that. It's a wild card, it's possible, but I don't think it's actually probable. Instead, what we want to do is we want to review this a potential 5-wave move here, with this basically second wave move coming up higher, right? So when we actually start thinking about, okay, is there a move coming on inside here that allows us to understand what's going on? Well, we have our 3-wave structure just here. We also have a 3-wave structure dropping down. That comes in just here, and then potentially, we're on the cusp of a 5-wave structural move upwards. And so when we take a look at our stochastic, this is correcting quite nicely on our hourly chart. So we could be looking at finishing a 335 correction inside our wave 2 here. So let me just get rid of the stochastic and just map that out for you, right? So as I said, right, we've kind of got this this kind of move going on here. And there's a lot of complex stuff going on there. I'm not going to dive into that right now. But essentially what we have here is a 3-3 move. And potentially what we're looking at is the ability to see this as a 5-wave move. Okay, so if I grab that and move that over to approximately here, that's it. So we could potentially be looking at a surge upwards, right? And this surge upwards, if I grab hold of my 5-wave move, would look like this. Wave 1, wave 2, a wave 3 coming up to probably higher than our Y wave. So I'd be looking at about 47.5 cent approximately, then some kind of 4th wave and then some kind of 5th wave going up higher. And then actually that would complete our 335 correction here. And essentially that would be a giant ABC structure, which would basically then complete a wave 2 move and then bring us down. Now we don't have anything above and beyond 47.5 just yet. We'd have to see how that kind of goes. That's kind of an estimated area. A wave 4 cannot cross wave 1, so I'm expecting a shallow wave 4 and then a final push up higher into wave 5. Essentially that, once that is done, you know, there's no reason to think that we have any more room to the upside, and I would be looking for starting a significant 5-wave drop down as we kind of look to basically come down towards our low ranges here. And as we can kind of see this here, basically we'll be looking to complete a wave 3, somewhere probably between 28 and 34 cent, bounce up and then pull back down into the final lows of 22.23. Essentially that is where I feel the bottom for Cardano ADA is likely to be. And this is again based on all of this being a B wave, all of this coming down here into a C wave low, this yellow box area is being a typical wave 3, some kind of bounce up, and then a final 5-wave move taking us into those lows. So do expect some volatility. Now at this low point down here, I would expect a pretty significant push upwards. I'm looking at this as like a 35% move, but it may be even more significant than that. It'd be really hard to tell right now, but I'll be looking for pretty decent bounce at this point to the upside. Again, taking a look at this as a macro move on the upward directional move. Now, ultimately, our daily macro would indicate, potential highs of around $39 in the next cycle upwards. I think that's too soon to really tell. I personally would be aiming somewhere between, $6 and $20, somewhere in that range. But I'd love to be wrong, and I'd love to see this thing, smash past some of those targets. I think Cardano is definitely going to be one of the front winners in the next cycle to the upside. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Are you looking to acquire some cheap ADA? Do you think we have hit the bottom? Do you think we're going to drop down to 22.23? Or, do you think $39 is a realistic price target in the next cycle up? Or do you think that's actually a few years out at the moment? So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications. And in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.